April 22nd, 1945. Bavaria, Germany. A requisition manor house converted into an American military field hospital. Greta Hartmann sat trembling on the edge of a metal-framed bed, her fingers gripping the rough cotton sheets until her knuckles turned white. She was 34 years old, though 3 years of blindness and malnutrition had aged her face beyond recognition. Captain Benjamin Stein, U.S. Army Medical Corps ophthalmologist from Brooklyn, stood beside her with surgical scissors in hand. The smell of antiseptic filled the small room. The sound of the scissors cutting through layers of gauze seemed crazy loud in the silence. Frau Hartmann, Captain Stein said in fluent German, "I'm going to remove the final bandages now." Greta whispered prayer, half hope, half terror. She'd been blind for 3 years. Darkness had been her whole world since 1942, when an untreated eye infection destroyed her vision. And for 3 years, Nazi propaganda had drilled into her head that if the Americans ever captured her, their doctors would mess with disabled Germans, torture them, use them for twisted experiments. Yet here she was, bandages wrapped around her eyes after emergency cataract surgery done by an American Jewish doctor. Captain Stein's medical notes from that morning read, "Patient exhibits severe anxiety. Convinced American doctors will harm her despite blindness being her only affliction." The final layer of gauze fell away. "Now," Stein said softly, "open your eyes." To understand why Greta Hartmann was scared out of her mind of the very doctor trying to save her sight, you got to go back to 1942, Munich, Germany. Greta was a schoolteacher, educated, independent, a widow raising 2 young daughters after her husband died fighting on the Eastern Front. In January 1942, she got what should have been a simple eye infection. But in wartime Germany, nothing was simple anymore, not even close. The Nazi regime had wrecked Germany's medical system. Everything went to the military. Jewish doctors, some of the best in the country, were kicked out, locked up, or killed. Civilian care fell apart fast, especially for stuff labeled non-essential. An eye infection was non-essential. By early 1943, Greta's untreated infection caused cataracts in both eyes. What should have been an easy fix turned into total blindness because nobody bothered to help her. Greta went from teaching kids in Munich to depending on her own kids, 10-year-old Elsa and 7-year-old Anna, to get around a city getting smashed by Allied bombs. Her sister Liesel became her full-time helper, guiding her through rubble, helping her dress, feeding her when her hands couldn't work right. The Nazi regime had a name for people like Greta: useless eaters. Disabled civilians who wasted resources under the T for Euthanasia program. Thousands like her were murdered. Greta only lived because her sister hid how bad her blindness really was. She lived in darkness twice, once in her eyes and once in her head, filled with lies from propaganda. Americans were monsters, she was told. If they won, they'd rape, torture, and experiment on civilians, especially the weak. Greta bought it. After 3 years blind and cut off, she had no reason not to. Then came April 1945. Germany was falling apart. American troops pushed into Bavaria. Greta, her daughters, and Lisa were found hiding in a wrecked farmhouse, starving, scared, just waiting for the end. When American soldiers walked in, the girls screamed. They'd been told Americans killed kids. Instead, the soldiers gave them food, real food, and called for a medic. The patrol had been clearing houses for German soldiers. They kicked open the farmhouse door and found 4 terrified women instead. The soldiers, most of them barely out of their teens, saw the fear and lowered their rifles. One guy pulled chocolate from his pack. Another called the medic. The medic noticed Greta's cloudy eyes. He'd seen cataracts before his grandma had them. These looked bad, but maybe fixable. He wrote it up and passed it up the chain. 2 days later, that note reached Captain Benjamin Stein. Stein was 32, born in Brooklyn to German Jewish parents who'd left in the 1920s. His grandparents stayed behind. So did aunts, uncles, cousins, all murdered in camps. Stein carried that pain every single day. Now he was being asked to treat a German civilian, a blind German woman, someone from the country that wiped out his family. He read the notes. Advanced cataracts. Hard case. maybe a 60% chance. Stein didn't hesitate. He said basically, yeah, I'm doing it. April 17th. Greta was moved to the mobile hospital, freaking out the whole way. Through a translator, she said Americans would experiment on her, just like propaganda said. Notes read, patient refuses treatment, claims Americans will use her for experiments. Stein checker himself. Bad cataracts, but the eyes could still work. April 20th. Surgery. Local anesthesia. She stayed awake but blind. She heard Stein speaking German, calm, steady. She didn't trust him one bit. 90 minutes later, surgery done. Both cataracts removed. Bandaged for 2 days. She lay there hearing voices, German-American nurses, Jewish survivors, Americans. Her old beliefs started cracking, but she was still stuck in darkness. 2 days of waiting. 2 days of fear. April 22nd, 1945. 1,430 hours. Stein came in with scissors. A translator stood by, and at his request, Greta's daughters were brought in. Frau Hartmann, Stein said, I'm going to take the bandages off now. The surgery went well. You should be able to see. Greta whispered, You're lying. You just want to hurt me. That's what Americans do to people like me. Stein stopped. This wasn't medicine anymore. This was war inside her head. He told her the truth. My name is Benjamin Stein. I'm Jewish. My family was from near Frankfurt. They stayed. They died in camps. Your government killed them. Greta froze. I have every reason to hate you, he said. But I'm a doctor. I swore to heal. Not hurt. I fix your eyes because every life matters. Not because of flags. Because you're human. She cried. Hard. Stein later wrote. She cried for 10 minutes. Not from pain. From understanding. Then he started cutting the bandages. Snip. Snip. Each layer is closer to light. Open your eyes. She couldn't. Fear locked her up. Her daughters cried. Mutti bit. Stein said, They're here. They need you. Be brave for them. Slowly, her eyes opened. At first, just a blur. Then shapes. Then faces. Her daughters. Color. Light. Life. She sobbed, grabbing them, touching their faces like she couldn't believe they were real. She looked at Stein and said, Danke 17 times. They counted. Then she asked, Why? Why save a German woman after what we did to your people? Stein said, Because healing ain't about nations. It's about humans. And the best revenge against hate is proving every life matters. That broke her all over again. The enemy had shown more humanity than her own government. By April 30th, she could see about 70%. Read. Walk alone. Live. But mentally, that was harder. She saw photos from camps. Read survivor stories. Learn what had really happened. She wrote Stein, You gave me back my eyes, but took away my comfortable darkness. Now I must see what we became. He wrote back, Sight means responsibility. You see now. So you must remember. In May, Germany surrendered. Greta stayed in the American zone. She became a translator. The woman who once feared Americans now worked beside them. Stein did 47 more surgeries on civilians. His final report said, Fixing eyes is medicine. Teaching the truth takes humanity. Stein went back to the U.S., became a top doctor, and did charity work worldwide. Died in 1982. Greta died in 1991. She spent her life teaching kids about propaganda, lies, and thinking for themselves. In 1967, she said, Captain Stein opened my eyes twice. Once with surgery. Once with truth. The second hurt more, but we needed it. Today, hundreds of descendants of civilians treated by American doctors are alive because someone chose healing over hate. History isn't just battles. Sometimes it's one doctor, one patient, one choice, and light winning over darkness.